to a brand new episode of Coming Distractions brought to you by the Nerdpocalypse podcast. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Demetrius.
Hey.
All right, guys, we're back. This time we're going to review Bumblebee. This is the 2018 film directed by Travis Knight. This is the 6th Transformers movie. This is obviously a prequel, but we're going to talk about that, whether or not it really is, to the other Transformers movies, unfortunately done by Michael Bay. This film stars Hailee Steinfeld, John Cena, and this tells the story of a robot B-127 who is sent from Cybertron, the robot planet, to establish a base on Earth, and he becomes the classic Bumblebee character that we know and love. So, and he has a relationship with this young girl, and they are running from Decepticons. Okay, you, Demetrius, you had the luxury of seeing this movie. You are a massive Transformers fan.
I am.
So
I've got the Bible.
There you go.
You know, this is the first edition from 2004. The binding is a little jacked up, but yep.
There you go. With the G1 Bible design. All right, what did you think of this movie?
It was a decent movie. But it was an awesome Transformers movie. You know,
a little swerve.
I'm the type where I am not a fan of humans in my Transformers lore. But if you look at any kind of media or any kind of show or anything like that, the humans play a huge part of it.
Of course.
You know, so you have to take them with, you know, the bad with the good. And the thing is, this director is not Michael Bay, though it was produced by Michael Bay.
Of course.
You know, but this director, at least I want to say the director, but everyone involved has either played Fall of Cybertron, has watched Transformers Prime, you know, or even at least half of the first season of G1 Transformers, because they got the first 5 minutes absolutely correct.
Right. So the first 5 minutes, and again, we're not going to do spoilers or anything, but the first 5 minutes is all on Cybertron.
Man,
this is what everybody is really raving about.
The jets were the traditional triangle jets that the Decepticons used to be, you know, and then what B was as far as his car, it was exactly what it looked like in Transformers Prime when they had the flashbacks to Cybertron. Like they actually paid attention. Oh my God, they did. You know, and you know, it was later on in the movie, but still, Optimus is a fucking badass. Like there is no disputing
I love how much you're geeking out about this. This is why when this came up, I was like, I would do you a disservice not to give you the screening for this.
I was afraid to see this movie because my heart's been broken several times already, but this was definitely a treat just because. If you've seen the 1986 movie, Optimus was that. Before he died, he was that.
Spoiler for 1986.
Yeah.
So the thing I'm really interested about, right? So this is directed, so like I said, this is done by Travis Knight, who did Kubo and the Two Strings, right? Mm-hmm. Which this was the reason why when he got announced for directing this movie, I immediately was like, okay, that could actually totally work, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think this guy he's got a real talent. How is one of the big things of the Transformers movies is obviously how the robots look. I'm not a huge fan of the design of Bay's robots because I think they all look like shards of glass for the most part. But this, at least from the trailers, looked very G1 style. Did that carry over to all, not just Bumblebee, but the other characters as well?
No. Well, because there was only 3 other Transformers in the movie. Right. Two of them were Decepticons, and they were triple changers.
I don't know what that means.
A triple changer is a transformer that can transform from, like, you basically have 2 vehicle forms and then the robot form.
Okay, gotcha.
So you know you had your jet car robot, and you had a helicopter car robot.
Okay, gotcha.
The Decepticons were as sleek as you could possibly get them. But their design as robots had to make sense. So they were really sharp designs as far as like all of their edges. Whereas Bumblebee, since he was a car, he was an actual Beetle.
Yeah.
He was more rounded. So it made sense for the car that he actually looked at, for the form that he took on.
Right. See, and that to me, like, not to get too much in the weeds there, but like that to me makes much more sense than the Bay movies, where it didn't matter what what their car form or their vehicle form was. They all were just super sharp looking.
The only thing that the Bay's Transformers looked like, they had the difference or whatever was their chest pieces made them, as far as like the front of the vehicle.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that was the only thing that was indicative to what that made them look like their vehicle form. Whereas just like in the cartoon, especially G1, you see Cliffjumper. Cliffjumper was, a Jeep, and he looked like a damn Jeep when he was still in a robot form.
Right.
So, and then also they kept the Cybertronian designs on some of them during some of the other scenes. It was, and the Decepticons were the Decepticons. Like I don't know if you've seen the clips of it or whatever, but the appearances of some of these bad guys and the sounds, like 1984 sounds, like the transforming sound.
That I did notice.
Hit.
Yeah, that I did notice, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, a lot of people are talking about Hailee Steinfeld, who plays Charlie. Her acting apparently was actually pretty good. Yeah, and like her connection to Bumblebee, I thought was supposedly pretty good too.
Because I never saw Kubo, but I understand that the character development within that movie, was all about heart and sentiment. We all know, like, Bumblebee has always had, at least in the last, let's say 10 years, 10, 15 years, he's always had a problem with his voice, His voice box got messed up or whatever.
Choose the radio or whatever.
Right, so he uses the radio. In order for him to, like, that happens in this movie, and which is like, not a spoiler or anything like that, but the way that she takes her time to connect with him, and he's like a scared animal at one point. It's kind of heartbreaking. Yeah. Especially knowing where he came from, because they show him to be a badass in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And for him to be diminished the way that he was, and for him to be brought back to a certain degree, it was a journey.
Okay.
Right. If you want to talk about light spots, John Cena, the dude's kind of funny.
I think he has great. That was going to be my next question, by the way. I think John Cena has amazingly good comedic timing.
He's funny, and he asked the most obvious question.
Like what a normal person would be like, "Yo, they're giant robots."
No, it's like they're Decepticons. The name is in the
like why are we trusting them?
What's going on here? Like, but funny. He was motivated. His entire motivation for dealing with everything that came about made sense.
Okay, cool.
So he wasn't just a robotic figure that just was like, oh, I'm military, so therefore I gotta take these guys out. No.
Right, because I thought that was, for some reason, that was like a weird thing in the previous movies, which was like, they always had these, like, for lack of a better term, like these G.I. Joe type characters. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't mean anything. They were just running from one explosion to the other, right? So So it's kind of nice to hear that Cena actually did something.
Yeah, and there was nobody else. No, there was one other character that was a human that made sense for the story.
Right.
But the humans were limited as far as the amount of interactions that we had. I mean, we had the family of the girl and the one black guy, or whatever. And then there was some other stuff, but it was mainly about her connection to her father and Bumblebee.
Okay.
So It was really good. It was, like I said, it was a decent movie. If it didn't have the Transformers in it, wasn't gonna see it, but as far as everything that happened, as far as prequel wise, they are establishing a new universe.
Yeah, I think they wanted to, and this will just quickly before we get out of here, but I feel like they wanted to not say it was a reboot, because that term might turn people off, right? For people who might have, for some reason, got really invested in those other movies.
How?
Well, I mean, it has its fans, but I could see them being like, well, I'm not going to go watch this get redone again. I love those movies or what have you. But I think if you say, well, it's a prequel, then they're like, oh, okay, cool, it's connected. I need to see this. But then it's like, cool, this was great and well established. Then we're going to toss all of that after it, right? It's an easy way to just kind of move past that. Yeah. But I feel like the word reboot is now like a bad word.
You think so?
Yeah, I think for some audience members it is. Okay, last thing. What is your score for this?
I would have to give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay,
there was nothing that it didn't even drag. You know, everything had a purpose. There was actually, now that I said that, there was this one scene where Bumblebee where they were trying to show off the fact that they could put together such a visually astounding thing and have like something for the IMAX.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the boomings of the thumping, this, that, and the third. That's what I think that scene was for. But that everything else made sense and was purposeful for the story.
Okay, because it's coming in at 114 minutes, so just shy of 2 hours. That's a pretty tight script for something like this, especially having anything to do with Michael Bay. Like under 2 hours is amazing, right? So that's good to know. Okay, so 4 out of 5. That's not bad.
It was like I said, it was a very decent movie. It had a story, it told it, and it set up for other things, but it didn't set up. The movie was not a setup for everything else. It actually told the story. It
meant to tell. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of times movies can get caught up in trying to establish, hey, all this other stuff is coming behind, and you're like, yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right. That's actually a perfect example. Right. So, all right. So 4 out of 5. That's probably the best score any Transformers movie has ever gotten.
Well, the first one was pretty good for what it was at the time.
Right.
And for what we had,
which is nothing.
Exactly.
Right,
you know, now that we are, you know, 10 years into the Marvel universe, right. 5 or 6 years into the DCEU. I mean, these blockbusters need to be something more than just explosions,
right?
You know, so this is what we got.
All right, there you go. 4 out of 5 for Bumblebee. So check that out, and we will see you guys next time.
See you.
You're watching the Nerdpocalypse YouTube channel. Make sure you click that button to subscribe and check out our weekly podcast where we talk about movie, TV, news, tech, and weird stories from around the internet.